This is Kathy Vogan reporting from the Federal Court of Australia, and as an Australian journalist and member of MIA, I am really happy to see that fellow journalists have come along.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm here as well.
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. So what do you think? What are you hoping for today?
I think I really obviously really hope Antoinette wins, and I hope that it means that other media employers learn a lesson about not censoring their staff, about not bullying their staff, and that the ABC apologises and tries to rebuild trust with the whole workforce and with the Australian public as well.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Where are you guys coming from?
The Coalition of Women for Justice and Peace.
Oh, and you're here for
Antoinette Lattouf, for freedom of expression and the facts in the media.
Yeah.
No censorship about the truth. It was obviously a pressure from the Zionist lobby to expel and silence the voice of Palestine. Anything that supported a ceasefire and a stop to the cruelty and human rights abuses that was happening in Gaza had to be silenced.
Yeah.
But also her termination was on the spot.
It was.
It was on the spot.
I know.
She was escorted out, which has never ever happened.
No.
So there is a procedure, and the procedure is that you sit with HR and you discuss and you sort of sort it out, and then whatever decision. But she was on the spot dismissed.
I know.
That's huge.
Like she was a dangerous individual, escorted by security.
Yes, absolutely.
It's all very, very strange.
Yes.
But it's backfired for the ABC, hasn't it? They've suffered some embarrassment, one would say.
Well, we hope so.
So far.
It's not doing its job if it has to silence the truth.
I mean, I have much less faith in the ABC than I used to as a result of this.
There is no impartiality, actually.
No.
And objectivity in broadcasting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's become embarrassingly blatant. Actually.
Yeah.
These are murderers. You speak on behalf of murderers. So there is blood on your hands that is stealing land from the indigenous people of Palestine. You are murderers, there is blood on your hands.
In December 2023, I shared a Human Rights Watch post as Human Rights Watch found that Israel was using starvation as a weapon of war in Gaza. It is now June 2025 and Palestinian children are still being starved. We see their images every day, emaciated, skeletal, scavenging through the rubble for scraps. This unspeakable suffering is not accidental, it is engineered. Deliberately starving and killing children is a war crime. Today the court has found that punishing someone for sharing facts about these war crimes is also illegal. I was punished for my political opinion. I won't be taking any questions. I'll have more to say in due time. Thank you.
Antoinette Lattouf emphatically won her legal battle with the ABC. The court has decisively upheld her claim that the ABC illegally dismissed her from her employment. The court has made important findings that in doing so, it capitulated to a campaign of lobbying. Organisations like the ABC that fold in the face of bad faith complaints about the Israel-Gaza conflict, ultimately end up facing perverse consequences or in perverse situations. And that's exactly what the ABC did. You will recall that after the decision to sack Lattouf, the ABC board unanimously backed its management. So this decision, this unlawful decision, goes right to the top of the ABC. Not only did the ABC act illegally, it then dug in and has fought this litigation every step of the way, digging an even bigger hole for itself and undermining its credibility and the trust that many Australians have once held in the ABC. It's been incredibly distressing to watch the ABC discredit itself. You will note that the ABC has repeatedly denied that it sacked Antoinette Lattouf. This is the second time we've had to fight to show the ABC sacked Antoinette Lattouf. Its denials have failed repeatedly. The ABC took a bizarre defence about Lebanese race. The ABC rejected an offer last July to settle the case for $85,000, instead blowing over $1 million in taxpayer money to discredit itself. So not only did the complaints and its panicked reaction to the lobbying lead it into a perverse decision, it doubled down.
What should taxpayers make of the amount of money spent by the ABC, public money?
The amount of money spent on a case that could have settled for $85,000 is self-evidently ludicrous. And not only that, it has been in aid of nothing other than to discredit the ABC. It is, as someone who values public broadcasting and has grown up with public broadcasting and has a strong attachment to the idea of a fearless, independent public broadcaster, all of us, it's been incredibly demoralising and distressing to watch the ABC behave like this.
Should the professional lobby be held accountable?
We will now move to the next phase of the case, which is the court will now deal with penalty. And there are multiple contraventions of the Fair Work Act that the ABC's engaged in, and we will be seeking significant penalties because we're concerned to ensure that this never happens again. And the ABC's conduct since it illegally sacked Antoinette Lattouf raises real concerns about whether this will happen again if similar bad faith actors make complaints about ABC journalists.
Can Antoinette ever work again at the ABC? Do you think
the other deplorable dimension to this situation is that the ABC has continued to blacklist Antoinette Lattouf. It has not sought to re-engage with her. It should have done what was clearly obvious from day one, which was to apologise for its panic and its illegal sacking and to work with her. Instead, it has blacklisted her.
Do you think that will change after today? Could she ever work again at the ABC?
I have no confidence at the moment that that will change. I do not see any indication of any change in the ABC's attitude to Antoinette Lattouf. It's a disgrace that they continue to blacklist her. I will say one thing about the lobbyists. Amongst the lobbyists who clamoured and pressured the ABC to sack Antoinette Lattouf were lawyers. Consider this, please, if you will, those lawyers. The court has found that the ABC has illegally sacked Antoinette Lattouf. Those of you as lawyers who pressured the ABC to do that need to reflect on your role as lawyers in the legal system.
Is it a shame they got a suppression order?
It is not the role of a lawyer to try and pressure an organisation to illegally sack an employee in my... Each person must deal with their own conscience, but lawyers in particular have particular ethical and other obligations, which I invite those that were involved in this exercise to consider in light of this judgment. And that's all I'm going to say.
Josh, a lot of
I'm here with Mary Kostakidis, Australian veteran journalist, one of our best, and we've just got back from the Federal Court of Australia, both a little windswept. It was rough weather this morning, but what we witnessed was a victory for the journalist Antoinette Lattouf, who had accused the Australian national broadcaster of unlawful dismissal. Mary, you've been following this case very closely, as I have. Were you surprised by the results, and are you pleased?
No, I was not surprised. It's exactly as I expected, and I'm thrilled. And the wind you were referring to earlier, I felt today was going to blow away some of the oppression, Kathy, because that's what we've been subjected to in this country and elsewhere in the Western world. We're supposed to be democracies. We're supposed to have, journalism where journalists can report and comment without fear or favour, but we don't. And one of the things I was particularly happy about was that in the judge's orders today, he has determined that the ABC should conduct an education program.
Right. Yeah, because one of the things that I think came out in the trial was a shameful degree of ignorance about Middle Eastern affairs. This was about what was happening in Gaza. Ms. Lattouf was not dismissed for anything that she did on air. She was hosting a Christmas show. But some people were looking at her social media, and she had posted a Human Rights Watch report about Israel using starvation as a weapon of war. And that was what made a lobby group get together and organise a coordinated letter-writing campaign to the national broadcaster. The national broadcaster panicked and, came under all this pressure to get rid of her, and they did. They folded in that way. And our journalist union was not happy about that. MIA, the Australian Journalists Union, has stood very firmly with Antoinette and has questioned the independence of our national broadcaster from this kind of outside influence. Wouldn't you sum it up that way, Mary?
But look, the union had to support her. They couldn't do anything but support her. It was a workplace issue. She was removed because of her political opinion, and it was hardly a case of her expressing her own political views, really. Yeah. All she did was share a Human Rights Watch post, a report that found that Israel was using starvation as a weapon of war. It was evident at the time, and it's evident to the entire world now. It's irrefutable, right? So, the judge found that she was sacked for her political opinions and that the emotional cost to her was extraordinary, the price she's paid. So he ordered damages of $70,000, but there'll be more, and there'll be another hearing to determine what those costs will be. But it's a very significant decision, and one that I think may interest the media all around the world, because it points to the bias in our mainstream media, and public broadcasters have a particular responsibility because of their role, because of their funding, because of their obligation to the public, to not demonstrate bias. And they say they don't, that they're impartial and they're not biased, but in fact, we know very well that that's not the case. And today, a court found that. So it's a huge win. And it's a relief, I have to say. It's a
Oh,
relief for all of us to hear this said in an Australian court by a judge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that they? I mean, one point she wanted them to re-employ her just for the short amount of time that she missed. Do you think that she would still want to go and work there? And do you think the national broadcaster would have her back now that they've lost this case and they've lost a lot of money as well? Are they going to stick by their guns and keep her out of broadcasting?
We don't know whether the ABC is going to appeal the decision yet.
Yeah, of course.
As far as her going back, that's a decision for her and the ABC. But I know, and because Antoinette's written about it and spoken about it, how important it was for her to get this gig at the ABC because of the ABC, the importance of the ABC as an institution, as the BBC is in the UK and as public broadcasters are in the US. There is a trust that the public have in these broadcasters. That trust has been eroded so badly that they need to take steps to restore that trust.
Yeah.
And this is a very good trigger for that. And I hope they take the opportunity to have a really good, hard think about their coverage of Middle Eastern affairs, and also just the way they cave in to pressure by lobby groups. And we all know how that's conducted. And I've worked in the newsroom for 20 years and have seen firsthand just the relationship that exists between the Israeli lobby or the supporters of Israel and newsrooms. That really has to change.
Well, and of course, it's much easier today when you've got programs like WhatsApp, where people can congregate, they can communicate very quickly, and they can get to wide numbers of people. And it was my understanding there were also lawyers in there helping to ultimately oust this journalist from the national broadcaster. But we've seen today that that's not on. And in terms of her political opinions, what I gathered in the courtroom was that she hadn't really articulated her opinion by reporting on the Human Rights Watch report. In fact, it was her assumed political opinion that had motivated Mr. Oliver Taylor, a senior employee at the ABC, to fire her. What he thought her very act of posting this report from Human Rights Watch, a totally reputable organisation, meant. And that was being fed to him, I guess, from several directions. He was under a lot of pressure from his superiors, Mr. David Anderson, and the former chair of the ABC, Ita Buttrose. Were you disappointed that there was no blame laid on the very top end of the ABC?
I think that it's unfortunate that a line manager type person has copped the blame for it. But I think the judge had to have a look at all the facts before him, and this is the conclusion that he came to. I think that person would have been under enormous pressure from because that messaging from the head of an organisation filters through, and it's without a doubt there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Put on.
As a matter of fact, in the opening statement of the ABC's defence, it was said immediately that this person, Mr. Oliver Taylor, who was a content manager, I think, at the ABC, that he was the sole person responsible. They really made a point of that right from the very beginning. when really, when you listened to the testimonies of Ita Buttrose and David Anderson, they were the ones who were directly receiving the complaints, and they were the ones applying the pressure down the lines. So that
they were, but I suppose the judge looked at who actually bit the bullet and
did it.
made the decision. But you're right. And I think for the public and for those of us that watched the hearing, we felt that that would not have occurred if there were not these orchestrated complaints and if the head of the organisation hadn't been so concerned about it. Now, what they were concerned about was her, the views that they knew her political views because they had seen her social media posts before she was employed.
Yeah.
So what they said to the public broadcaster is that she's an unsuitable person to be employed by the ABC. And that made the ABC managers look at her previous social media posts. That's whether, I suppose, her own political views entered it.
Yeah.
So once they decided, having looked at it, that her views present a risk to the ABC, that's when the decision was made to terminate her employment.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can understand how looking back on her social media very quickly, the mistakes were made. For example, when she reported for Crikey before she went to the ABC on the fake Gas the Jews video from the Opera House, and I was right beside one of the cameramen for that clip, and I didn't get that sound. I was able to provide
you were there. You were there. You did not hear that.
I didn't record it. And I gave my raw footage.
But did you hear? Did you hear it? Do you remember hearing it?
No.
I can't understand how you were so close to where that chanting occurred, but you supposedly occurred and you did not hear it.
Oh, well, it's not just a question of hearing because I was recording. And so when I play back the original soundtrack, that's not what the people are saying at all.
And what were they saying on your soundtrack?
Oh, well, just the usual sort of stuff, free Palestine or whatever, and that kind of thing. Although very, very late in the evening, I was still there to see the Israeli flag appear on the Opera House. I didn't see it, by the way, but there were a few stragglers left over probably about 150 metres away, just near the gate to our botanical gardens on the other side of the Opera House. And I could see some lights and things. So there was probably about 50 people left, and 99% of the people had left. And that's when I had stopped filming, and I was just waiting for that last shot. But anyway, some people may have said that over there, but that doesn't give you the license to overlay that soundtrack on something that was filmed about 2 hours earlier. And that's basically what they did. So I was probably only standing about 3 meters at the most away, and slightly behind the person who filmed that shot that had that soundtrack. But the thing was, Antoinette, if you just looked at that, the still that was used with the subtitle, Gas the Jews, you would have thought that if you didn't know the story, if you didn't look into it, you might have thought that was, her authorship, and it wasn't, the photo didn't represent her views at all. But also, there are other things on there as well that could have been easily misinterpreted. Certainly the Human Rights Watch post, Antoinette didn't comment anything. She didn't articulate any political opinion. All she did was relate the news. And that's a bit the problem, there's a lot of leeway if you're reporting one side of the story, but if you're trying to report the other side of the story, it's almost taboo.
Yes, that's right. That has to change. Anyway, I think today's decision was just, what can I say? It's wonderful.
It was a
It's
terrific
wonderful
victory.
justice. Today we really feel justice has been served, and
I think so.
and it's a huge win for journalism. It's a huge win for unions. Unfair dismissal, and it's a huge win for democracy.
Yes, yeah, and so she won at the Fair Work Commission, but this time it has just to be clear, it has been judged that the ABC breached the Fair Work Act and also what they call the Enterprise Agreement, which is essentially her contract with them. So they've lost on both counts, and it's not the first time they've lost. And we hope that the ABC won't be foolish enough to try to do this kind of thing again.
We can only hope.
Yeah, and we hope for similar kind of outcomes for some of our friends overseas, particularly the lovely Richie Medhurst, who has jumped back in and is reporting wonderfully on the situation between Israel and Iran. He's a very, very knowledgeable young man, and we hope that the dogs stop chasing Richie with Medhurst as well. Okay, Mary, thank you so much. It's been somewhat informal, but we're still trying to digest it all.
Yeah.
The ruling is up on the Federal Court of Australia's website, so you can read it in more detail there. Mary Kostakidis, thank you for talking to us.
Thanks, Kathy.